It's such an honor to be with you today to celebrate Black History Month. When I think of this month and its significance, I think of our ancestors' legacy of perseverance and what we can learn from it, and the legacy that our generation and this county is laying right now, a legacy that our children will build a future from. That's why I find the theme of today's program so fitting: past, present, and future. Not one of those elements can stand on their own. There's no present independent of our past. There's no possible future independent of the choices and decisions that we make today in our present. That's why we must acknowledge, study, and learn from our past so that we can build a better future. When I think about the past, for me personally, I think about the legacy of my own grandparents. I recognize that I stand before you today as the only African American on our board of supervisors, that I stand before you as the first African American man ever elected to the board, and that I stand before you as one of the only African Americans that has ever been elected to represent our county in any capacity. But in truth, I really only stand before you because of them. My grandparents were the embodiment of everything that makes Black History Month worth celebrating. And they instilled in me three important values. If you say you're going to do something, if you make a commitment, then you have to do it. If you live in a community, you have a responsibility to be of service to that community. And finally, if you see someone in need, if you see someone suffering, then you have a responsibility to help them. They didn't just talk about these three values, they lived them every day. And as one of the first African American families to own a home in Old Town and operate a business, that was not always easy. As I know, it was not easy for many of the ancestors of those participating in this program here today. When I think about our present, I think about the investments that we are making today in traditionally marginalized communities, especially along the historic Richmond Highway corridor. I think about the vision that Chairman McKay had in acquiring the property necessary to build a first-of-its-kind community center on Route 1, and the work that we have done together to reimagine how such a center can truly serve a community through the development of workforce within that community center. I think about what it will mean to the surrounding community, a largely African American and Latinx community, to be able to gain access to the skilled trades and technology jobs that will allow them to build the generational wealth necessary to shape their children's futures. And overwhelmingly, that's what I think about when I think about the future that our children will inherit. For too long, the future of children growing up in historically African American communities in our county has largely been defined by geography and by the retail and service industry jobs that are too often perceived as the only option to support themselves and their families. The investments that we are making right now will pay dividends of opportunity, equality, and generational progress that will compound far into the future as children, many of them African American, begin to think about their futures differently. The same way that I began to think about my future differently when my grandmother opened my eyes to the world beyond my neighborhood and gave me access to an education that has shaped my life and the lives of my children and their children after them. Those are the legacies that I think about when I think about Black History Month and our past, present, and future. So again, I'd like to thank Chairman McKay for his support and all the other speakers this afternoon for their vision. I know that the legacy that we are building together is something that we'll all be proud of whenever we reflect on Black History Month. Thank you very much.